So welcome everyone, good evening, and welcome to our careers in logistics and supply chain management. Tonight we are joined by recent graduates and international students from institutions across Canada and of course from outside of Canada. My name is Han Tran and I will be moderating our session tonight. Just a few housekeeping items to go over with you. There are a few administrative items just to make sure that everything is going smoothly as possible. All participants have been muted and there's no need to use the video. You should be able to hear via your computer device, and the session is currently being recorded. At the end of the session, we will also be sending a quick poll, so please take a second to send us your feedback. We're always looking at ways to improve. For the best, experience as possible, feel free to go in full screen mode. And if you have any questions, please go to the Q&A section at the very bottom there on the right. And this is where the questions will be directed to the guest panelists. If you see there's a chat function, this chat function won't be monitored. It's more for if you wanted to share any resources or share any comments, thoughts, or even meet the people that are in the session today. Feel free to use the chat function. Maybe perhaps right now you can type in where you're from and what you're currently studying. We'd love to get to know you all. Everyone in the audience will also receive a copy of the Devant newsletter, your Devant Inside. And feel free to go to our website as well. It's devant.ca. This is where all future workshops are listed, and go under the events tab. So for example, on April the 19th, at 7 p.m., there's going to be a Devant Career Cafe where you can meet employment counseling advice. And before I also begin, I wanted to talk about Devant and a little bit of our history. So Academica Group is been around for over 20 years. They are the largest company providing research and consulting expertise to colleges and universities across Canada. They focus on student recruitment, student success, and career development. So Academica Group started Devant because they saw the challenges and opportunities that international students and recent graduates have when they are looking to establish a successful career in Canada. And the word Devant quite literally means, it's in French, and it means to be in front of. So we believe that our services and support will bring you in front of the rest of your journey to stay, work, and of course succeed in Canada. We are an organization tailored specifically to cater to international students and have the expertise of over 60 years combined experience working in higher education and career development. So Devant is here entirely set up to provide assistance for students like you. And of course, Canada needs you. Canada is looking to make to take in more international students, and they really value that students are making a significant economic contribution nationwide. So they're ideal candidates for permanent residency. Again, my name is Han, and I'm excited to be here moderating your session. Before joining Devant, I worked in nonprofit settlement and employment services to help newcomers in Canada. So area of immigration, program development, and helping newcomers succeed is where my heart is, and so I'd be more than happy to help out anytime. We have three wonderful guest panelists today, and I'm going to introduce you to all three of them. Our first guest speaker is Tatiana Lazareva. She is a supply chain logistics recruiter. She's certified in production and inventory management. She's worked in the field of supply chain and demand planning for 8 years, serving various industries, including retail, wholesale, consumer packaged goods. She started her career in supply chain and logistics recruitment in 2017 because of her passion for people and a firm belief that people could be happy at work. So in 2019, Tatia launched Unicorn Experts, and this is her own independent recruitment practice. Our second guest speaker is Val Kucherenko. He is a commercially minded international sales, marketing, and supply chain professional focused on achieving excellence and strengthening the competitive edge. He's highly experienced at different levels of maritime transportation and supply chain industry, and he's a supply chain industry specialist with broad knowledge gained in leading Fortune 150 and CPG companies. He's got 13 years of diversified experience with a record of accomplishment in designing new strategies, driving change initiatives that result in major improvements. He has strong knowledge of local markets in North America, Europe, and Russia, and holding various positions in all three regions. Our third guest speaker, Kirsty Aitchison, she is a director at CITT. She's here today to represent the company, Canada's Logistics Association. She's been with CITT in a variety of roles for over 17 years and is currently CITT's Director of Strategic Projects and Relationships. CITT was established in 1958 to provide education, networking opportunities, and a professional credential for people working in transportation and logistics in Canada. Today, CITT is Canada's original and largest professional association supporting those working in logistics. So one of the most important things CITT does is facilitate mutually beneficial connections between logistics professionals, industry employers, academic institutions, and students like yourselves to help elevate the industry and help everyone with a stake in the supply chain logistics in Canada. So I want to welcome all of our three guest speakers today. I'm going to end our PowerPoint and end the show so we can have and see everybody here. So welcome everyone to our panelist session. We're very excited to have you and of course share your expertise with the students in the audience today. Maybe perhaps I can start the first question for Tatiana. Tatiana, with starting Unicorn Experts and understanding the recruitment process and knowing that students really are new to the industry or new to the experience, what do you think, what's your opinion, your key areas that students must remember when presenting themselves to potential employers? Maybe perhaps, you know, talking about social media or what's in their resume or interviews.
Yeah, Han, thank you so much for the introduction, and thanks, Devant, for the opportunity to share our knowledge, experience with students, with fresh grads. When I started Unicorn Experts and I continue to run this firm, I primarily focus on headhunting experienced professionals. However, last year, I happened to place a great amount of international students in their first supply chain positions. And I have my personal insights, professional insights. I have multiple conversations in the industry. So if we think about what international students have to keep in mind and, you know, highlight what employers are looking for, the number one thing that I think most of you guys are struggling, I'm referring to our audience, is how to handle rejections. I want to start with that because how you handle rejection defines your confidence, defines your self-esteem. And in supply chain roles, majority of employers are looking for your professional confidence, how you present yourself. And of course, if you go after, like, if one rejection and then the other rejection, you feel lost, you apply for positions, but they don't respond back to you, you start questioning your worth, your value. And that's, I think, the hardest part in the job search, when you have to be your own cheerleader, when you're one-on-one with yourself and you have to keep going and you have to stay strong and optimistic. So that's the first thing that they're looking for. And that's the biggest struggle for you guys, to stay confident, motivated, and still pursue your passion. The second thing that I would like to mention is that students have to be aware of their competitive strengths. Because when you are new to the country, new to the field, you tend to focus more on what you are lacking as opposed to what differentiates you from the crowd. So one of those things that is in your favor is that you're fresh, you'd studied supply chain or any other field, and you're flexible with compensation, with the time. You can work any shift. You're not that picky about location. you may be easy to work with. You may be someone who is willing to learn, who is willing to commit you 100% into the role. And that's something that companies are looking for when they decide to hire a fresh grad. And keep in mind, there are, in my opinion, 3 types of organizations. There are organizations that had good experience hiring students. In fact, you can see many of your friends working for those companies. They have good experience hiring from certain schools. They know that certain credentials guarantee the quality of the candidate. So those companies are your companies, whether they are hiring or not. Somehow you have to get in front of those organizations, hiring managers, or maybe make friends with those who work there so that you can be referred or introduced. The second type of companies are the ones that are looking for experienced professionals, but after, let's say, they had been searching for the right talent for about 3-4 months, they realized that their budget is way below the market. So they cannot sustain and they cannot fulfill the financial demand from the professionals that have 1 or 2 years of experience. And they're willing to take fresh grads who either studied supply chain or have certain credentials like CITT, CCLP, for example. So that's another type of companies that may be willing to consider your profile. And the third type of companies, those are usually the hiring managers or organizations that had bad experience hiring students. Let's say they hire them, they train them, and then after 3 months, they just leave them for another opportunity. So these guys are very hard to get into, and most of your rejections are coming from those type of organizations where they either don't have resources to train, they need experienced professionals who can start bringing value from day one, or they just had bad experience, and if they hire someone fresh, they hire from referrals, network, someone who they can trust. So if applying online is the only way that you are looking for a job, I highly recommend diversifying your strategy, adding new tools such as networking, connecting, and of course, having your social media in the right shape, making sure your LinkedIn profile works for you, that your resume is crystal clear. It tells them what you can do, what your education is, and that self-presentation part is done. It should be done perfectly for you to be referred and for you to be found through headhunters or through networking. So that's something that I want all of you who are looking for a job, whether you're a fresh grad, international student, I want you to keep those things in mind. So definitely identify organizations that have had experience hiring international students. I guess that many of your friends who are employed have their stories to share with you. So be curious, connect not necessarily with hiring managers, but also with people who are currently in the positions that you want to pursue. Logistics coordinator, supply chain coordinator, purchasing coordinator. And that's probably what my message is. And when you are talking about yourself, when you're presenting your resume, make sure that education is on the first page. And if you need to break down your education into certain modules that you think may be relatable to the job, so that, because not every hiring manager knows the curriculum of, let's say, international business management course. They don't know what they are learning, what you are learning at school. So yeah, that's probably a lot of information to answer your question.
No, it's great information, because I think understanding the types of employers that are out there, the 3 types that you were talking about, and if you happen to fall in the last one, that they've had bad experience, you might think that, oh, I'm not experienced enough, or I don't have the qualifications, but it's just that you were going to the organization that wasn't ready for you at that time. And so it's good to explore other venues to see if you can find the other 2 open employers. And I really love your message about rejection. and just keep on going about rejection, because even if you get rejected in the first place and they're not you are not their first candidate. I've seen where the first candidate declines and then they go back to that list and that roster, and then, you know, depending on how you I guess reacted, or how you reacted to rejection, really makes a difference.
Exactly. And it also shows your emotional intelligence. I had many cases when company circles back to initial candidates, or they have another position that opened up and they contact recruiter about that candidate they interviewed a few months ago. You just want to make connection. The worst case, you come out of that process with a few more people who know you personally, who interviewed you, and who can introduce you to others. So always take every opportunity, look at it from a positive perspective, and manage your expectations. When your expectations are high, when you put pressure on yourself, you tend to fall into this disappointment, which doesn't help.
Yeah. It's a great learning experience. So you didn't get it this time, I'm sure, because you've learned in this interview, there's another time to get with another employer and ace that interview as well. Yeah. Great tips. Val, I think I would ask you as well too, maybe perhaps in your experience, what do you think, your opinion, like what are the best practices for international students while they're going to school? And maybe it's about experience, or maybe they don't have the networking experience there. So what are the tips and tricks do you think the international students should do to kind of get into the job market?
Yeah, thank you. And pleasure to be here on the call today and share the personal experience with the team and with the new and future grads. I know that, you know, you have the intention, you have challenges ahead of you, you have expectations, and it's all happening at the same time. So believe me, being there, done it myself. So I'll do my best to experience what I've learned over the years and share with you that crystallized knowledge that I have. Probably I would say I would start and just, you know, to add to what Tatiana said, with regards to the skills, just wanted to mention that, because sometimes it kind of gets convoluted. People kind of try to figure out, you know, what sort of skills they need to succeed. To me, it boils down to particularly two major ones. I would say agility and determination. I would start with agility because when you are young and you're just starting off your career, you definitely have some hopes and ideas and goals, long-term goals, short-term goals. But you have to be agile. You have to be ready for nuances of the market, because life, it is the way it is, right? Sometimes it's hard to change the environment or the market you're in. So you have to be ready to adopt the reality. And as Tiana was mentioning, sometimes you have to put a little bit less pressure on yourself and just open up yourself to the market and try to see what fits the best at this particular moment with a long-term goal in your head, as opposed to just trying to hit that wall that is unbreakable. And I've seen it myself and experienced myself, and I can tell you that's hard pain to take. You got to be ready for this and just have that a bit of a agility. The second part, I would say determination, because especially for international students who come to Canada or spent just a couple of years here in Canada, maybe a little bit more, it all looks rosy, right, from outside. You know, Canada has that marketing twist that, you know, it's a country for immigrants, but we have to, you know, realize that a lot of immigrants came to Canada. There's a high competition, and not only internally, but also there's a high competition with our neighbor down south, right, with the US. So we kind of have internal competition, external competition. So we have to be really on our toes most of the time to compete internally and externally. And that's something that takes determination to find your place in this very challenging and competitive market. But people with the right qualities and with the determination, they will eventually find their spot. It's just a matter of time, and you have to keep going. It's not that it always happens right away or the way you want. So a nice combination of agility and determination will lead you to the point where you feel satisfied and you will find your spot in life, professionally and personally, but it takes time. So just brace yourself, get ready, and you know, and keep on working on that. Couple of points maybe on hard skills. because when people think about supply chain, they kind of have that picture of warehouses, you know, the Amazon, Walmart, the container ships, trucks pops up in your mind. But supply chain and the modern supply chain is more about the analytical skills and ability to turn on a dime and provide information that will support the decision, right? Because everyone likes and wants to make fact-based decisions, especially these days when information is readily available. You just need to grab it, right? But before it transforms from data to information, then to some presentable and understandable report, it takes skills and experience to digest this information and to produce a meaningful report. And that's what quite often supply chain is all about. You have to work with a lot of data these days. It doesn't really matter if you're in domestic warehousing or international supply chain. Data-driven decisions is the key. So I would say ability and skills to analyze information, work with the large chunks of information. And it might sound funny, but even computer skills still matters, because especially younger generation, I'm just judging based on my son, they definitely know how to work with, you know, with all types of phones and iPads. But when it comes to professional skills and computer skills, it takes a little bit more. You have to know how to use certain software. You have to kind of, you know, have an ability to navigate different algorithms, and that takes time. It's not something that you can, you know, you cannot handle the electronics. You have to understand how to work with different software applications, and that takes time and determination. So I would say just if there's an open sources where you can get yourself ready, just give it a try. I would say this from a skills perspective. I know there's one of the questions, but I suggest we answer that later on regarding certification. I have a lot to talk about, but I probably will share it with my colleague Chrissy on certification. There's another part that I wanted to highlight specifically to new grads and those who are kind of trying to establish themselves professionally, probably networking. But I will pause here and just ask, should we have this one as a second question, or I can uncover that right now, the networking piece?
No, you can definitely continue if you'd like. I think those are, first of all, great skills that you were mentioning about agility and flexibility, determination, data-driven decisions or analytical skills, maybe even critical thinking skills, and of course those computer skills are great. And if you can go into those open sources to practice it, those are great tips. Maybe definitely, please go ahead and talk about what you with the tips and tricks for networking.
Yeah, and I'm sure that Tiana will support me, because we've gone pretty much through a similar experience of you know, becoming established professionals in your country, in Canada. I would probably say networking is the key, and this sort of word means different, you know, things for different people. I would say that networking is actually active networking. That's what you have to drag yourself out of the room, out of your comfort zone, and actually start reaching out to people in your swim lane, so to say. If you're in supply chain, then use, you know, existing open platforms such as LinkedIn, or I'm sure that Chrissy will mention that CITT platform has tons of information and actually a list of certified professionals in different industries within supply chain. So use those tools and just, you know, set those meetings and have conversations, you know, even 5-10 minute conversation with a professional from a company that you are targeting might be more valuable than, you know, spending hours and hours, you know, trying to research information about the same company on Google. Just something that I wanted to make sure that you keep in mind, because active networking, and I would even say proactive networking, matters, especially in Canada, where connections matter. And I'm sure that you've heard about the hidden market, or the market, the hiring market, when you can actually be referred. And Tatiana mentioned that is that referrals work, and that I can say from my experience matters a lot. So active networking would be a key. I would just put it down, saying that's what I need to practice, because not everyone likes that. It's a skill you have to work on, but believe me, it works.
Great tips for LinkedIn, and of course, we're going to go back to Christy definitely to talk about CITT as well. And yeah, networking for sure taps into that hidden market that you don't see those job postings anywhere. And so those referrals will get you to those positions. And so before I jump to Chrissy to talk about CITT, Tatiana, do you want to talk about that, sort of the networking piece, and maybe perhaps even the EQ or the soft skills you think are required when you do this sort of networking, or how to approach an employer? And it's not like an employer to say, hey, I need a job. You do need a job, but how do you approach and how do you show those, and how important are soft skills, I think, is the question.
Thank you, Han. And Valerie covered a lot of the networking piece, so I will just add my personal experience. So again, if we are talking about fresh graduates, people with minimum or no experience in supply chain, remember that employers or people who you are having a conversation with, they are looking for your potential. But potential is such a general word. How do they judge whether you have potential or not? And in my experience, what they are really screening you for is for your character, for your personality traits. For example, if you promise to follow up on a phone call, you have to follow up. If you promise to submit your resume within an hour, you have to submit your resume sooner than that. So they look at you from different angles before the technical interview has even started. So make sure that you demonstrate sense of urgency, you are polite, you ask permission to introduce yourself. If you are cold calling someone, you verify that that's the right time for this person to speak. And remember that the golden rule of any relationship, personal or professional, everything has to develop gradually. You have to invest into the relationship in order to gain something out of it. And it's a two-way street. You can do your part also by offering your support, your help, your volunteering help. Maybe introduce someone to this person if you learn that, yes, they're looking for someone, but you're not quite the best fit for the position. Introduce your friend. Be generous in this regard. Networking is about generosity. It's about being human, being someone who delivers on the promises, who is easy and nice to chat with. If you're going to in-person networking event, don't talk about jobs. Try to establish connection. Talk about sports, about traveling, about something, about food that you're having there. Something. You need to establish connection. Don't worry, you will follow up on that. Don't overload people with information. Don't talk too much. I guess I'm speaking to myself right now when I say that. So it's all about making connection and developing relationship gradually. You don't want to be, I remember I attended many networking events, and there is always this one person who walks around the room, gives away the business cards so that everyone can see it. Like, I swear, there is always one person who walks around, I'm John, like that. And I remember when I followed up on those type business cards, I never received anything back, because I guess he looked at my profile and thought, what can I possibly gain from her, right? So that just be someone who is who's there, who's dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that, because sometimes it's not it's a two-way street for sure, and it's not about taking or asking. It's about giving. So helping and creating that relationship, because maybe later on, maybe not today, maybe not next month, maybe next year, the opportunity comes, and because the relationship is established, this person is more willing to be invested in providing that individual an opportunity, a job opportunity. But I love that. And be nice to everyone and follow through, because, being nice to the person who's next to you that you may not think is going to give you a job, maybe one day will be in that hiring manager position. So network and be nice to everyone.
And don't underestimate your personal support. Maybe your story can help someone else, even if you're talking to a job seeker. There's nothing wrong when you share your experience, when you share your struggles, when you realize that you're not alone in that journey. So that's
absolutely. Great tips there. And everyone, just to let you know, I will go into the Q&A session, but I want to talk to Chrissy first. I definitely want to talk about CITT. Chrissy, what are your thoughts? How can CITT help students achieve their employment goals or goals in general? Maybe perhaps we can attach the networking piece. Is there a networking piece around that, and how they can grow professionally? So what tips and tricks would you give to our international students, to talk about CITT, and then relate it to all the things?
Yeah. And actually, I think I'm going to start by just building on what both Tatiana and Val said about networking. One of the first things that Tatiana said is it's about making connections. And I thought it was really interesting the way she mentioned, even if you don't get the job, now there's someone else out there who knows who you are, who knows your name, who knows what kind of work you're looking for. And I think you really can't underestimate how important that is. I'm thinking about CITT has some official partnerships with academic partners across the country, but we also are open for any students to come join us as affiliates. And last year, there was someone in one of our academic partner cohorts who just really stood out because she made an effort to always be present and show up. CITT hosts free webinars every month. She was on every webinar. She would usually ask a question, or she'd at least pop some greetings into the chat. And over time, everyone just sort of came to know her name. And so even though she was still a student, and even though she was new to Canada and she didn't have Canadian experience yet, by the time she'd finished the program and was looking for a job, all of these employed professionals who are members of CITT across the country knew her name. And so she had name recognition. And so when she started doing the more focused networking to get a job, it was a lot easier to have conversations with people because she was already familiar to them. So when you think about how a professional association like CITT can help with networking, CITT really does have a community. We certify professionals, and those professionals become members of CITT. They hold the CCLP designation, which Val also holds. You can also join while you're still a student as an affiliate, and then you get invitations to go to events. Depending on where you are in the country, we have what we call local area councils, which are member-led groups that put on all kinds of events, everything from very social, they'll do fundraisers for local charities. They'll host golf tournaments, right down to doing facility tours and educational sessions that are very skills focused. And these groups come together regularly. The GTA-based group, Val, is actually very actively involved in running that group. And they have events about once a month. We also have groups in the Vancouver area, in Alberta, in Manitoba, in Saskatchewan, and Quebec. We did have a group in Atlantic Canada that wound down a few years ago, but they seem to be potentially winding back up again because we have a lot of new CCLPs associated with some of the Atlantic ports and also some of the big employers out there. And so these groups, they'll have these events. Some of them are free. Some of them are only $10, $20, $30 to attend. Things like golf tournaments get a little bit more expensive because that's golf. But, you can start showing up and start getting to know people in a more social environment rather than always being about the job interview, the job application, talking about the work. And then when the time comes, these are the people who will give you the inside, hey, we're about to post a job posting, you should send me your resume and I'll pass it along to the hiring manager before it's even posted. And so that network effect starts to give you opportunities and give you a reputation in the industry, even maybe before you've worked in Canada. And so that was kind of a combination of my tips on networking and also a little bit about CITT, but now I'll kind of backfill that with CITT does have these networking opportunities both through our local area councils, and we also nationally have some events that we host in person every year, as well as a lot of online opportunities, both with our webinar series, which are hour-long educational webinars, but they're also often an opportunity to sort of connect with your fellow members in the chat box and, get to know each other a little bit casually. We also have a members-only online platform, which can be used for networking and for conversations as well. And so historically, the only way to join CITT was to become a CITT certified logistics professional, which is something that most people would do at least a few years into their career. So it was a bit of a barrier for younger people and for students fresh out of school to necessarily join. And so what we've done in recent years is we have introduced the opportunity to join as an affiliate. Anyone can do that. For a working professional, it's, I believe, $450 a year professional fee. But we have a special rate for students, which is $25 a year, because we know obviously students are already spending a fortune on their education, especially for international students. They're dealing with all of the expense of coming to Canada and building a life here without having local family support. And so $25 a year basically gets you access to the webinars, access to any free events that we put on for our members, special pricing for ticketed events, and it just gets you in the loop. You know, it brings you into the fold, brings you into the community, so you can start getting to know people working in the industry that you want to build your career in, both in your own local area and right across the country. And so technically, you're supposed to be enrolled in a full-time program at the time in order to get that student rate, but I know we're doing this webinar in April, and so there's probably quite a few people on the line who are just finishing a program, or maybe who finished a program in the winter. So I just wanted to extend the offer that if you would like to come join CITT as an affiliate, send me an email. I'll pop my email address into the chat box, or connect with me on LinkedIn. Just let me know that you are on this webinar, that you're interested, but maybe you're not. Maybe your program just finished, so you're not going to be able to provide proof of current enrollment, and I'll make sure that we can get you set up with the student rate for your first year, so that you can check it out, you can get that great job, and then when the time comes to renew, you can say to your employer, hey, can you please pay my renewal fee? Because that actually is pretty common in our industry. Employers will pay for memberships and professional certifications. So that is sort of the opportunity to come join CITT right away, no matter where you are in your career. But I will also close by saying that the CCLP designation, CITT Certified Logistics Professional designation, that's really CITT's history. That's our elite status. That's the high bar. That's the professional designation that we would encourage anyone who's looking to build long-term leadership-focused career in logistics to ultimately aspire to. And so when you get to the point where, if you've just finished an academic program, you're probably not looking to do a bunch more learning. But if you get to the point where you're thinking, how do I go from these coordinator entry-level positions and really figure out my next step up to becoming a manager, a supervisor, I want to have that C-suite role someday. Take a look at the CCLP designation, and that can become a pretty solid part of your career path planning as you advance in the industry.
Mm-hmm. Wow, fantastic news. And I love that it's only $25 for students to become part of the membership, or CITT membership. So everyone in the audience, I definitely encourage you. I put in the link for CITT. I hope that's the one. And Chrissy, I also put your LinkedIn profile as well, if anybody wants to connect with Chrissy after this session. So this is
perfect.
fantastic.
And I'm just going to drop my email address in here too, so that anyone who wants to can send me an email.
And I really love that story of that student. What a great strategy, just to go into every webinar, every session, and get everyone to know who she is, make herself memorable, because when the job opportunity came, most people are going to send it to people that they know. So great strategy.
Yeah, it felt like she'd been part of the community forever after her first year, because she just, and she was very authentic about it. She just would pick up on when is there an opportunity to ask a question? When is there an opportunity to just sort of say hello? There's definitely an EQ component to that, but it's something you can learn too. And when you see people doing that successfully, just sort of, watch how they interact with people and see how you can adapt that to your own style.
Absolutely. And speaking of networking, Val and Tatiana, are the students okay if they reach out to you on LinkedIn as well too?
Yes. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Fantastic. I'm going to drop your LinkedIn profiles into our chat. And so anybody, if you are looking to connect with them, please feel free to do that. I'm going to go right now to the Q&A session and bring up the questions. And this is for anybody to answer. But the first question is from Suhail. I have experience in 3PL for 10 years. What kind of certifications I should go for in logistics area? Anybody would like to tackle that question?
I can start, and then I would definitely pass it over to my colleagues. I will say that people who work for 3PLs often come to CITT for our designation. You know, we look at the full transportation and logistics industry in Canada. So we look at all the different modes, plus intermodalism, warehousing and distribution, anything to do with import, export, customs, transportation of dangerous goods, marine insurance. So all of the types of things that you may have touched on in your career in 3PL would be relevant. And then that also helps you take international experience and learn about the Canadian context. So CITT's program does look at things from the Canadian context. So what are the regulations in Canada that affect transportation and logistics? Who are the major players? You know, obviously the railroads are a big part of Canada. We have Atlantic ports and Pacific ports. We have huge geography and a small population kind of spread out along that. And so CITT's program kind of helps you connect the dots on how transportation and logistics works in Canada. And I will also mention that as a professional designation, in addition to the educational component, which you can either take courses with us or there is a challenge exam opportunity, we do require 3 years of professional experience to hold the designation. But in our case, we absolutely accept international experience towards that requirement. So if you've worked at a 3PL for 10 years in another country, we would 100% count that as your professional experience, and you would just be looking at the educational component.
Fantastic. Anyone else you'd like to add, or I think that was very thorough too as well.
I think if you had 10 years of experience in 3PL, of course, it depends where you want to go, which area of logistics attracts you the most, what title you want to have, what industry you work in. So it's important to look at job descriptions that you want to apply in the future and see what certifications they require. I find that if you are looking for a common denominator across all areas of supply chain, it's important to know the fundamentals of international trade, Incoterms. You whether use it directly, you negotiate them with your suppliers, with your internal partners, or you just deal with them indirectly. So yeah, look for those areas where you need improvement. And I know CITT covers most of that, if not all.
Fantastic. Okay. We have another question. It's an anonymous attendee. Are there any professional courses that we can obtain online that is related to this field that we can add to their resume? I guess, what courses, online courses would you recommend?
I don't want to just keep mentioning CITT, but I will say that, you know, our full program towards the CCLP designation is available online. So the way CITT's program works is we do partner with colleges and universities across the country who offer our courses in the classroom for students who are registered in those programs. But a lot of people who come to CITT for education are already working in the industry, and they're looking to do ongoing professional development while already having a full-time job. So they're looking for something flexible that they can do on evenings, weekends, in their spare time. And so CITT's courses are developed so that, you know, you'll need to put in a certain number of hours a week, but you get to choose when those hours are. Even for the final exam, we have a 5-day exam week, and you have to finish the exam in a 2.5-hour window, but you get to pick your 2.5-hour window. So we're trying to be very accommodating, understanding that, you know, people have very busy lives between work and school and family. And so CITT's program covers pretty much everything from foundational transportation and logistics courses into more complex courses looking at integrated logistics, logistics decision modeling, transportation law, and as well as the economic impact of logistics and the impact of the economy on logistics. So if you go to the CITT website and either click on the Learn menu or the CCLP designation menu, you can learn more about the courses that we offer.
Awesome. Amazing.
Yeah, thank you, Chrissy. And just to top it off, I wanted to add that I personally completed CCLP designation with CITT fully online. It was prior COVID, so it's interesting enough. But even prior to that, CITT has been offering or had been offering online courses, and that was invaluable. Reason being is that I was relatively new to country. I was establishing myself. I was working, obviously taking care of the family. So doing this online was a huge help, and I can tell that worked out pretty well for me.
Fantastic. Yes. Thank you for that. We have a question for Jaswinder. I have more than 3.5 years experience in logistics company as a safety administrator and a logbook auditor. It's helpful for me in Canada. So I guess what they're trying to ask is there prior experience overseas helpful to land a job here in Canada? I'm assuming that's the question. And Tatiana, can you please guide him in regard to what he could do to get a great career in logistics and supply chain management?
Well, it also depends on how you position yourself, your resume. When I talk to professionals who come to Canada with experience back home, I tell them try to capitalize as much as you can on that experience. Maybe you worked with a certain system or technology that is used here. Try to find as many common grounds as possible, which means you need to do your research. What companies in the market are similar to your previous employer? Who are the players in this industry? What technology they use? What can you bring as value to them? So it involves a lot of in-depth research. There possibly are opportunities that are hidden. You may find companies, but you may not find that they're hiring. So it will involve networking, browsing through LinkedIn, connecting with professionals there. It's a sophisticated approach. If you want to take an easy approach and just apply to all jobs that are out there in logistics, you will experience some bottlenecks. You will probably find that you don't get response as much as you want. So it's up to you. I have to look at the resume. Feel free to send it to me and I'll get back to you. I can just...
Yeah, yes, because it's so unique to a person's experience and where they're going and researching that organization as well. So please reach out to Tatiana.
I can share a very quick example. When someone, she was a student, one part of the class that I was presenting to. So she sent me a message on LinkedIn saying, Tatiana, this is the job with this company. I think I'm a great fit for this position. Can you introduce me there? And out of curiosity, I looked at her resume and I looked at the job description. The job description was asking for GMP experience. I went to her resume, I did a Control F and was looking for GMP, and it came back to me saying 0 results. So I just picked up my phone and I wanted to continue with this. I was like, and I asked her, what makes you think you are a good fit for this job? And she didn't know what to say, right? So it's don't overestimate your own importance. Take humble approach and read every job description carefully before you claim that you are the best fit for it. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have another question. Hi, I work for a produce industry as a logistics coordinator, focusing mainly on imports. I would like to know what are the key points to focus on when looking for a new opportunity after certain years of experience in the industry. Moreover, if we want to shift from produce to, let's say, healthcare or pharma for logistics or supply chain, what are the prospects in Ontario regarding this? So I guess they're just talking about a shift from one industry to the next. How do they do that? And what are the key points to focus on when looking for new opportunities after so many years in one industry and moving to the next? Anyone on the panel would like to answer?
One thing I'll note quickly, but then I think that the others may be better to answer this one, is certainly in the logistics industry, there are a lot of technical skills that are fairly transferable between different sectors, and also going from sort of the shipper side, which, would be whether you work in agriculture or healthcare, where you're the one who offers a different kind of service but needs to use transportation and logistics to make your business run, as well as people who really work on the sort of logistics side of things, whether they're working for a transportation provider, distribution provider, understanding the regulations, understanding the problem solving strategies that come with logistics and the best practices. There's a lot of things there that are transferable between industries. So you kind of need to learn how to connect the dots between what you've been doing in your sector and what might be relevant in another one. And I think one of the things I would recommend highly is find some people who do logistics in another industry that you'd like to move into, and set up some informal, coffee chats or quick Zoom calls where you literally just say, here's the kind of things I do in logistics. What are the kind of things you do in logistics? And just have a really casual conversation to see where you might find harmonies and where you might start to identify gaps in your skills that maybe a little bit of research, a little bit of informal training or formal training might patch, so that you can then say, listen, I have experience in these 3 things that are transferable, and I'm also learning about these things that I know I don't have yet, but I know I need to have.
Great tips, great advice. Anyone else on the? I love that.
Maybe just to add, yeah, absolutely. Can I?
Oh yes, for sure, absolutely.
Yeah. Maybe just to give an additional flavor, provide additional flavor here, I would say sometimes it looks a little bit convoluted from outside, like how do I start, where do I go? Essentially can start from the basics. Do the research, identify the companies that actually provide or work in the industry of your interest. Then you can do the online research, for a number of professionals who work in these companies, and set up, your calls, follow up with them. Connect with them on LinkedIn, reach out for, for information sessions such as coffee breaks or something like that. And then just learn about the industry and figure it out, because that's essentially what it takes most of the time. It's active networking and reaching out to people. That's the only way most of the time for newcomers, for students, for those who are transitioning from one industry to another one to learn, right? Because you will see how many people will actually respond and will be willing to help you.
And also understand, Valerie, thank you. I want to add a little bit to that. Also understand why you want to switch industries. They will definitely be curious about the reason behind it. So make sure you articulate it for yourself. Maybe you're just tired. Maybe you've been working for one company for so long and you make impression of the entire pharma industry based on your own experience. Maybe there are other pharmaceutical companies that are different. So do not exclude your own sector. I doubt that you know everything about your niche. So I always tell, before switching, try to do your very best where you are so that, maybe you are missing out on certain, maybe your culture is toxic, or you may also find that other industries pay slightly less than pharma. Based on my experience, pharma is usually above the market. So yeah, be mindful and do your research.
For sure. I think I also want to say that, as a job seeker, you really need to think about your value add to the organization. So if you're switching sectors, that's fantastic. The why, and of course, what you can offer, like the transferable skills that Chrissy was talking about. But it's not about the take, it's about what you can give. And so if you can express what you can do for the organization, even if you don't have that experience, in that particular sector, I'm sure through that research, through coffee chats, and sort of, looking and filling those gaps and understanding what their pain points are and how you can solve that, I think that'll be a little bit easier to transition. So just think about what your value add for that company is. There is another question about, is there any key tips to getting an internship or rather than volunteering experience? I have a organization called Career Edge, and I will type it into the answer there that you can explore to see if there's any opportunities for internships, because that's what they do, is they provide internships to different areas. So have a look at Career Edge. Was there anything else in the panel? Any tips and tricks for or any tips, sorry, for internships or asking for internships?
In my case, most of the experience that we have with internships is when we have a relationship with one of the academic institutions, we'll work with them to help find internships en masse for like full classes. I don't really have any personal experience with individual connections to internships.
Okay, great. So yeah, sorry, Tatiana.
Oh, no, I just want to give a quick advice. Find professionals who are currently in their co-op internship positions, and just be curious and ask them, how did you get this internship? Who recommended you there? So create your own list of companies that are doing that, because not every organization is offering such those type of opportunities. So again, I'm all for horizontal connections.
Yes.
Spreading. I don't know why I'm against vertical, but the horizontal is I think it's defines this century.
Yeah, I think it's untapped. I think a lot of people think about vertical networking, but horizontal networking is very valuable as well too, and sometimes forget about it. And so it's a great reminder to everyone to do the horizontal networking. There is one question on the webinar chat. I don't know what your thoughts are on this as an employer, as a recruiter, an association. What are your thoughts on somebody who has a university degree versus a college diploma? Is there a difference when applying for a job? I think that's somebody asked that question. Is there an advantage to getting a university as a university graduate?
Well, there are employers, usually they're brand name global employers who are specifically screening for education when they're hiring for their management positions or even, planner level positions. But on overall, you may have advantage, but again, it's a combination of skills, your soft skills, your technical skills, how you go through interviews. So they're choosing between two candidates, and let's say you are absolutely identical to someone else, but you have university, the person has college. It depends on the hiring manager, but again, it's a combination. It's not the education alone.
Right. Okay. Any other thoughts? That's good. Okay. I think it's 8:57, and I definitely want to make sure that we are out. Sorry, not 8:57. 7:57. I want to be out, and I do have a quick poll for the audience. If you can take just a second of your time to answer this question for us, that would be so useful. We're always looking to improve, so please go ahead right now and do your mini evaluation. And while that is done, I want to sincerely thank all three panelists for tonight and imparting your knowledge and all the advice that you provided our students tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thanks for hosting the event.
Yes, thank you for bringing us together again.
Thank you.
Till next year. And I'll see you, and have a great night, everyone.
Thank you.